The night was heavy with silence, broken only by the distant rumble of thunder above the city. Far beneath its streets, where sunlight had never reached, the sewers stretched like endless veins of darkness. The stench of rot, damp stone, and rusted metal hung in the air, suffocating, clinging to every breath. Captain Marcus Kane waded forward through waist-deep, murky water, his boots dragging sludge with each step. His gloved hand held his rifle steady, the matte black weapon raised toward the darkness ahead. Every drip from the cracked concrete ceiling echoed like a clock tick, counting down to something unseen. Behind him, four soldiers followed in perfect formation, their faces obscured by night vision goggles and mud-smeared helmets. Marcus raised his fist, signaling halt. Instantly, the men froze, discipline drilled deep into their bones. The team's breathing slowed, every muscle tight, ears straining for the faintest sound of movement. Somewhere in the maze ahead, enemy scouts were rumored to patrol. Cole, his second in command, shifted slightly behind him, scanning the shadows. Cole's eyes flickered, calm but sharp, a soldier who trusted Marcus with his life. Marcus listened. Just the drip, drip, drip of sewage. Just the faint hum of rats scurrying over rusted pipes. Just the sound of his own pulse in his ears. He tapped his earpiece, expecting intel from command. But instead of the cold, measured voice of an operator, a different sound cut through. A small voice. Trembling. Fragile. "Daddy." Marcus froze mid-step. His body stiffened, a shiver running down his spine. The tunnel, once filled with professional silence, suddenly felt unbearably claustrophobic. It was Emma's voice. The sewer, the mission, the soldiers, all of it faded for a moment. In his head, he saw her, 7 years old, with hair that always tumbled in her eyes, clutching her stuffed bear tighter than anything else in the world. She was supposed to be asleep. She was supposed to be safe. His heart slammed against his ribs. He pressed the earpiece closer, almost afraid to breathe. "Emma? Sweetheart, is that you?" His voice cracked, something his men had never heard from him. There was a sharp intake of breath on the other end. Then the voice came again, thinner this time, broken by muffled sobs. "Daddy, he's cutting my hair." Marcus's throat went dry. Around him, his men shifted uneasily, exchanging nervous glances. They didn't know what was happening, but they knew their commander was suddenly someone else. Not the hardened soldier they followed, but a father, trembling with fear. Emma's sobs grew louder, choked uneven. "Mom's new husband, he's laughing at me." Marcus's knees almost buckled. The air in the sewer felt heavier now, pressing down on him. His jaw clenched so tight it hurt. Images flashed through his mind. Claire, his ex-wife, smiling with that smug bastard at their wedding. The man she had replaced him with while Marcus was overseas, fighting wars no one would remember. That man now standing in Emma's room, scissors in hand, stripping away her innocence strand by strand. Marcus tried to speak, but his words tangled in his throat. Finally, through clenched teeth, he whispered, "Put him on the line." For a moment, nothing. Then another voice crackled through, sharp, mocking, dripping with venom. "What's the soldier boy gonna do? Swim through the sewer and save her?" The sound of scissors snipping echoed faintly in the background, each cut like a knife in Marcus's chest. Emma whimpered again, and the man laughed, a cruel, hollow sound that bounced inside Marcus's skull. His men looked to him for orders, but Marcus didn't move. His grip on a rifle trembled, rage boiling through his veins. He had been trained to survive firefights, ambushes, explosions, but nothing had prepared him for this. In that moment, surrounded by filth and shadows, Marcus felt something he hadn't felt in years. Powerless. But only for a moment. His breathing slowed. His voice dropped to a calm, steady whisper. The voice of a man who had made hard calls before. "Emma," he said softly, forcing calm into his tone. "Listen to me. I need you to do something. Go to the window. Open it. Can you do that for me, sweetheart?" There was a pause. He heard Emma's breath hitch, heard the faint creak of footsteps on her floorboards. Then her small voice, trembling. "Okay, it's open." Marcus's eyes hardened. He raised his laser designator, aiming it up toward a thin grate in the sewer ceiling, where moonlight trickled through. Cole, watching silently, caught his eye. Marcus gave the smallest nod. Cole's expression didn't change, but his finger tightened around his comm, ready to call the sniper, perched miles away. Marcus's heart pounded. His daughter was still sobbing in his ear, the cruel man still mocking him. The sewers smelled of death, but Marcus smelled only blood. He whispered into the comm, a vow disguised as an order. "This ends now." "This ends now," Marcus said, barely above a breath. Cole's reply was a whisper in his ear. "Designator is painting. Sniper has your feed. Call the mark." Marcus steadied the laser, his forearm braced against a slime-slick pipe. Through the grate above, a thread of moonlight met the invisible cone he was casting toward a second-story window 3 blocks away. To the naked eye, there was nothing. Through a scope, it would bloom like a lantern. "Emma," he said gentler, "good job opening the window. Now, take 2 steps back. Hands over your ears. Keep your bear with you. Don't look at him." On the line, small feet shuffled on wood. A hitching breath. "Okay, I did it." In Emma's room, pale purple curtains shivered in the night draft. Hair, soft, small, too much of it, lay scattered across a unicorn bedsheet. Emma's cheeks were wet, lashes clumped, her stuffed bear pinned to her chest like a shield. David stood between her and the open window, a pair of dull scissors in his fist, his jaw rough with stubble and something smug behind his eyes. The phone lay on speaker atop the dresser, screen glowing. He tipped his head toward the window, as if addressing the darkness beyond it. "Window's open, soldier. You gonna crawl out of your little cave and do something about it?" Emma flinched at the sound of his voice. Her fingers worried at a loose seam on the bear's paw. David noticed and smirked. "Tear that, and you'll have nothing to hold." In Marcus's ear, Cole murmured, "Lima, 2 C's an adult male at the window. Partial profile. Requesting steady mark." Marcus squeezed the designator, breath held. "You have it. Copy. Wind 2 left. Holding." Marcus swallowed. The sewer pressed in, concrete sweating, water whispering around his legs. His men shifted behind him, a silent crescent of patience and loaded steel. One of them touched the radio switch on Marcus's shoulder, then thought better and pulled his hand away. They all knew this wasn't their call to make. On the phone, Emma spoke again, same cadence, same break in the middle. "Daddy, he's cutting my hair. He's laughing at me." Marcus's brow folded. The words sat strangely, like a line repeated from memory. He shook it off. Fear makes echoes. "You're okay, sweetheart," he said. "I'm right here." Under the breath, the mic caught a man's murmur near the phone. Not clear, just the shape of a sentence. "Sigh, good." Then the light scrape of metal on the dresser. Marcus's lungs tightened. "Cole, confirm. Anyone else in the room?" "Negative on additional heat signatures," Cole said. "Single adult, single child. Clear backstop is unknown. We need him closer to the window for a clean wall catch." David angled the scissors, snipped a lock so it fell past Emma's ear. He watched it drop, satisfied by the flinch it pulled from her. "Look at me," he ordered. Emma stared at the floor. "I don't want to." He leaned down, voice syrup thick. "Say it again so Daddy hears you." Her throat closed. She hugged the bear harder. Marcus's jaw clicked. "Emma," he said, carefully steady. "Don't say anything he tells you to. Just breathe. 2 steps more, back toward the door. Keep your eyes on your toes." A breeze slid the curtain aside. In that instant, a picture frame on the dresser flashed a tiny, soft reflection. There and gone. David's head turned, searching the window dark. He didn't see the reflection, but he felt the air move. He took 1 step toward the sill. "Lima, too?" Cole asked, angle improving. Came a low answer in Marcus's ear. "Hold your light." David's free hand dipped to his jacket pocket. A small black rectangle there pressed against the fabric. A pinprick LED winked once, then tucked beneath his knuckles as he adjusted the phone. "Speaker's garbage," he muttered, then raised his voice for the room. "Hear that, Marcus? She's crying for you." Marcus's grip tightened. Something about the pocket flicker tugged at him. Fitness tracker? Portable charger? The moment slid away. Emma sobbed, and the world shrank to that sound. Emma, he said softer, kneel on the rug. Hands over your head, just like a game. I'm counting to 3. 1. Her breath hitched. 2. She sank to her knees, small and shaking. 3. Cole's whisper. Lima, 2 has chest and cranial lanes. Minimal shift. Your call. David planted his palm on the window frame, leaned out a fraction to peer at the night. His mouth pulled into a smirk meant for no one and everyone. Come on, soldier boy. Swim. Marcus exhaled, slow and even, the way they teach you to make one shot feel like logic instead of fate. The laser held. Stand by, he breathed. The tunnel dripped. The curtain lifted. The bear's loose seam stretched under Emma's white-knuckled grip. And somewhere in the city's quiet, a finger found its last ounce of stillness. The world above and the world below seemed to move in 2 different rhythms. In the sewer, Marcus and his men stood locked in silence, hearts drumming against Kevlar. Above ground, in a small bedroom painted lilac and white, Emma knelt on the rug, clutching her bear, while David loomed over her, scissors dangling from his hand like a weapon disguised as something ordinary. The open window let the night air roll in, carrying faint city sounds. Crickets, a passing car, the hum of a street lamp. All of it ordinary, but inside that room, everything felt suffocating. Say it again, David muttered. His voice was low but commanding, the kind of tone a child instinctively obeys. His smirk widened when Emma hesitated. Go on. Louder this time. He can't hear you. Emma's small hands twisted the stuffed bear's arm until the seam creaked. Her voice trembled out of her throat, cracked and rehearsed. Daddy, he's cutting my hair. Marcus's heart hammered in his chest. It was the exact same phrasing as before, the same rhythm, as if she were reading lines from a script. His hand tightened on the designator. Something about it didn't feel right, but there wasn't time to untangle that thought. Not with David standing so close, not with Emma's sobs bleeding through the earpiece. The mocking voice came again, sharper this time. You hear that, Kane? She's begging you. You know what the problem is with being a soldier? You're always too far away when it matters. David dragged the scissors down through a strand of Emma's hair, the snip deliberate and slow. The cut lock fluttered down, landing across her trembling knees. Emma whimpered, eyes squeezed shut. Marcus's throat burned. He forced himself to stay steady. Every instinct screamed at him to storm through the sewer walls, but that wasn't reality. Reality was cold steel, crosshairs, and the calculated distance between a rifle and its mark. Cole's voice cut in, calm but urgent. Lima, 2 still has a shot. Cleaner angle now that the target leaned. Just say the word, Captain. Marcus hesitated, his mind splitting between father and soldier. Emma, he whispered into the comm, don't be afraid. I'm right here. Do exactly as I tell you. She nodded through her tears, though Marcus couldn't see it. Her tiny voice squeaked back, oh, okay, Daddy. David leaned closer to her ear, his breath sour, his smile cruel. You think he's going to save you from down there in the dirt? He can't even hold your hand. Emma's sobs grew louder, but beneath them Marcus caught another sound. A faint click, metallic, like a button pressed on a device. It lasted only a second before being swallowed by her cries, but Marcus's trained ear caught it. His eyes narrowed. Cole, he whispered. Did you hear that? Cole frowned, listening through his own feed. Heard something. Unclear. Could have been scissors on the dresser. But Marcus wasn't convinced. His gut twisted. Years in the field had taught him to trust patterns, and nothing about Emma's cries, repeated, exact, felt like a pattern a terrified child would naturally follow. David, oblivious to the suspicion building in the sewer below, chuckled again. He tilted his head toward the open window, his voice raised deliberately. Go ahead, Kane. Give the order. Be the hero, or keep waiting while I finish the haircut. Either way, she's mine right now. The words echoed in the sewer, bouncing off the wet stone walls. Marcus's men shifted uncomfortably, each of them fathers, brothers, or sons themselves. But none spoke. This wasn't their call. Marcus's hand trembled once before he locked it steady again. He took in a slow breath, forcing control. "Emma," he said carefully, "I want you to take one deep breath. Just one. Then close your eyes." On the feed, he heard the rustle of fabric, the faintest gasp of air. His chest ached with the sound. Cole's voice was low, almost hesitant now. "Captain, orders?" Marcus stared up at the grate, the pale moonlight spilling through like judgment. His vision tunneled, everything narrowing to the crosshairs he couldn't even see, but felt through muscle memory. Then David's laugh cut through, jagged and cruel, ripping Marcus back into the moment. "Come on, soldier boy. Swim faster. Or admit it. You can't save her." Marcus's hand clenched so tight around the designator his knuckles turned bone white. His voice came out like steel. "Hold. I want him closer to the frame." One more step. The sewer went quiet again. Above ground, David paced closer to the window, scissors swinging lazily at his side, smirk still plastered across his face. Emma squeezed her bear tighter, hair falling in uneven patches around her shoulders. And in the silence between her sobs, the faint click came again. Marcus's stomach dropped. Whatever David was doing, it wasn't just cruelty. It was something darker. And for the first time, Marcus wondered if he was already being played. The sewer was silent except for the drip of water and the faint hiss of Marcus's breath through clenched teeth. Every man behind him waited for his word. Their rifles were steady, their eyes darting between shadows, but their focus wasn't on the mission anymore. It was on their commander and the fragile voice in his ear. Above ground, David strolled slowly across Emma's bedroom, scissors dangling between two fingers, glinting in the lamplight. The open window spilled pale moonlight over the rug, over the strands of Emma's fallen hair. She sat trembling, hugging her bear so tightly the seams stretched like it might burst. Marcus steadied himself. His voice dropped, calm and deliberate, the tone of a man who had guided soldiers through ambushes and firestorms. "Emma," he whispered, "listen to Daddy. Go to the window. Just step forward, nice and slow." Her shaky breath came back through the calm. "I can't." "Yes, you can," Marcus soothed, though every word burned in his throat. "Just like when we practiced walking on the balance beam. One foot, then the other. I'm right here." There was a pause, then the creak of a floorboard. David's head turned, amused. He chuckled, low and cruel. "Look at her, Kane. She listens better to me than to you." He leaned close to Emma's ear, his shadow swallowing her. "Say the line again." Emma's lips quivered. Her voice came out the same as before, broken, rehearsed. "Daddy, he's cutting my hair." The exact same phrasing. Marcus's gut twisted again. Something was off, but her sobs were real, raw, and shaking. He couldn't think about patterns now. He had to save her. Cole's voice cut in, steady but firm. "Lima, 2 reports target at partial silhouette. We can take him if you clear it." Marcus's men shifted, waiting. The decision sat heavy, pressing into Marcus's chest. His heart hammered like a war drum. "Emma," Marcus said again, his tone sharper now, urgent. "Open the window. Just push it wider for me, sweetheart." A faint squeak of hinges. Then her small voice. "It's open, Daddy." Marcus exhaled slowly. He raised the laser designator, aligning it with the moonlight that slanted through the grate above. He painted the target, a thin, invisible beam stretching across the night to Emma's window. Cole glanced at him, then gave the slightest nod. Target marked. Clear lane. Above, David smirked at the open window. He stepped toward it, running the scissors along the sill like a man savoring a cruel game. "See this, Kane? She opened it because I told her to. You're not saving her. You're watching me." Marcus's jaw locked. His knuckles whitened on the device. "Emma," he whispered. "Step back now. 2 steps. Don't look at him. Just go." Her small feet shuffled against the rug. The bear squeaked as she clutched it tighter. "Good girl," Marcus breathed. Relief rippled through his voice, though his body was coiled tight as wire. The sniper's calm voice filtered through Cole's calm. "Lima," to his chest and cranial lanes. "Wind steady. Standing by." David leaned a hand against the window frame, peering into the darkness beyond the curtains. His smirk stretched wider, taunting the unseen soldier he knew was out there. "Come on, soldier boy. Show me you can pull the trigger." In the sewer, Marcus lowered his head. His voice, steel wrapped in calm, filled the calm. "Stand by." "Not yet." His men exchanged tense glances. One muttered under his breath, but no one questioned. Marcus's eyes narrowed. His gut screamed caution. Something about Emma's repeated words, something about the faint clicks he'd heard, it all gnawed at him. But David was right there, framed in the window, threatening Emma with every passing second. Marcus inhaled through his nose, sharp and controlled. Then he whispered the command, each word sharp as a blade. "Emma, kneel down, hands over your head, just like hide and seek. Do it now." There was a rustle, then a small whimper. She obeyed. Marcus steadied the laser. Cole's eyes stayed locked on him, waiting for the final word. The sniper's voice came back, crisp and certain. "On your order, Captain." Above, David chuckled, twirling the scissors once in his hand. His gaze drifted back toward Emma, her tiny frame hunched and trembling. He shook his head, as if amused by the entire performance. "Your move, Kane," he taunted. The sewer dripped. The comm buzzed. Marcus's men held their breath. And in that fragile, hanging moment, Marcus's voice cut through like a blade. "Hold. I want him closer to the frame." "Closer to the frame," Marcus repeated, barely breathing the words. Above, David's shadow lengthened as he sauntered toward the sill. He dragged the scissors' dull edge along the wood, a lazy rasp that set Emma's teeth on edge. Moonlight pooled on the rug, silvering the strands of hair scattered like shed feathers. Emma stayed on her knees where Marcus had told her, hands over her head, bare crushed her chest. Her shoulders trembled, but she didn't look up. In the sewer, Marcus adjusted his stance, forearm braced, laser steady. Cold water lapped his thighs. His team ringed him in a hushed crescent. Breaths low, muzzles canted high, eyes flicking between their intel tablets and their captain's profile. Cole leaned close enough that Marcus could feel his presence without turning. "Lima, 2 reports 1 step more gives clean backstop," Cole murmured. "You're painted. On your call." "Hold," Marcus said. "I want him right on the wood." On the dresser beside the speakerphone, a picture frame tilted at a slight angle caught just enough light to wink a sliver of reflection toward the window. David paused, puzzled by the tiny flash, then grinned at his own suspicion and leaned closer to the night. "You still there, Kane?" he called, pitching his voice for the room and the darkness beyond it. The scissors tapped the frame twice. Tick, tick. "You feel big underground? You sound small to me." Emma's breath snagged. Her voice, thin and familiar, started into the groove she'd used before. "Daddy, he's—" "Don't," Marcus cut in, gently firm. "Don't say anything he tells you to. Breathe for me. For in, hold 3 for out. Just like bubbles, remember? A small, shaky inhale. A small, shaky hold. A small, shaky exhale." She was listening. David's eyes narrowed. He cocked his head at the phone and, with 2 fingers, thumbed something in his jacket pocket. The same muted click threaded the air, so soft it would have vanished if Marcus hadn't been hunting for it. The tiny LED glow kissed the fabric once and died. Cole's gaze tipped toward Marcus. "You hear that?" "I hear it," Marcus said quietly. "He's prompting her." David crouched beside Emma, lowering until his mouth hovered near her ear. "Say the line," he whispered, sugar slick and deadly. "Louder. Make Daddy move." Emma squeezed her eyes shut. The bear squeaked in her grip. The seam along its paw stretched white. "Emma," Marcus said, voice low and even, "shift your knees 1 step back. Keep your hands up. Look at your bear, not at him." The rug rasped under small knees. The curtain breathed inward, then out again, a pale sail catching the night. David rose as she moved, irritated at yielding even an inch of choreographed control, and planted his palm on the window frame to watch her. His knuckles whitened against the painted wood. "Lima, 2 has cranial line with wall catch," came the sniper, steady as a metronome. "Wind steady. Holding." David smiled into the open dark, the kind of smile meant to be felt more than seen. "What's the plan, soldier boy? You gonna teach her ballet over the phone while I finish the cut?" He lifted a thin lock by the ends, snipped it, then let it float down in a cruel slow fall where she could feel it brush her cheek. Marcus's teeth met, quiet and hard. He could count heartbeats in his ears. He could hear the sewers drip measuring out the night. And beneath the father rage, the soldier in him noticed everything. The pocket click, the repeated cadence in Emma's words, the way David kept angling himself to the window, like a man performing for an audience. "Talk to me, David," Marcus said, voice suddenly calm enough to surprise his own men. "You wanted me here. You've got me." David blinked at the phone, as if considering whether to savor the stage. A scoff curled from him. "Finally," he said, and leaned on the frame a little more. Elbow kissing the wood, throat open, profile set in perfect geometry against the glass. "Say the line, sweetheart," he murmured to Emma, not taking his eyes off the night. "Make him jump." Another click. Subtle. Familiar now. Marcus felt the shape of it in his bones. "Cole," he breathed, marked the time of every click against her words. "Already on it," Cole said. "It's not random. Nothing about him is," Marcus answered. "Emma, keep breathing. You're doing perfect." She obeyed, tiny shoulders rising and falling. Her lips trembled, but no words came. The silence from her hurt worse than the crying. David's smile thinned. Control slipping, even by a thread, irritated him. He lifted the scissors like an accusation. "Say it," he hissed, softer, uglier. Emma flinched. Marcus lifted the designator a hair to settle his pulse. Another half step, he whispered to the night that connected him to a barrel 2 kilometers away. The curtain drew inward again. David leaned with it, forearm pressing fully to the wood as he peered into the street, hunting a threat he couldn't see. "Lima, 2, the sniper said, breath smooth, lane optimal. "On your order." Cole's hand hovered over his push-to-talk, eyes on Marcus. In the sewer, everything narrowed to a single edge. The painted frame under a stranger's forearm, a child's breath counting bubbles, a pocket that clicked like a metronome teaching a script. Marcus felt the decision gather, heavy and inevitable. He shut his eyes for half a beat. "Stand by," he whispered. The drip, the breath, the hum of a city that didn't know it was holding still. Above, David tipped his head, smirk deepening. "Come on then," he purred to the dark. "Be a hero." The silence stretched so thin it felt like the whole city was holding its breath. In the sewer, Marcus's men barely shifted, as if any movement would snap the thread of tension. Cole's gloved finger hovered over his comm switch. The sniper's voice crackled faint and steady in Marcus's ear. "Lane's clear. Target stable. Call it." Marcus steadied his laser, his pulse pounding against his ribs. Every fiber in his body screamed to give the order, but his instincts still hissed warnings. Emma's repeated cries, the faint clicks in David's pocket, they weren't normal. Yet David stood right there, framed in the window, scissors glinting in the moonlight. Emma was still on her knees, trembling, the bear squeaking in her grip. If he delayed any longer, David could turn crueler, cut deeper, or worse. Marcus closed his eyes for half a second, then opened them, steel in his gaze. His voice dropped to a whisper, calm, decisive. "Now!" Cole's finger pressed the switch. Above, 2 kilometers away, the sniper exhaled slow, his cheek welded to the stock. Through his scope, David's smirk was bright in the lamplight. The crosshairs rested steady over his skull. A final heartbeat stretched, then broke. The rifle cracked. A sonic whip split the night. Glass shattered. Curtains snapped in the wake. David's body jerked violently, then crumpled sideways, scissors tumbling from his hand. Blood sprayed across the window frame, a brutal red mark against pale wood. Emma screamed, raw and piercing, covering her ears. She fell back onto the rug, hair uneven, strands clinging to her cheeks as she sobbed. The bear slipped from her grip, rolling against the dresser. In the sewer, Marcus sagged against the wall for half a second, a tremor shaking through him. Relief and horror collided in his chest. He had made the call. He had saved her. Yet his daughter's scream didn't sound like salvation. It sounded like heartbreak. Cole's voice came through, steady but softer than usual. Target neutralized. Your girl's alive. Marcus swallowed hard, forcing control. Copy. Stay sharp. His voice cracked, and he cleared his throat quickly, hiding it. Above, Claire burst into the room. Her hair was disheveled, her face pale as she skidded to a stop by the doorway. Her eyes went wide at the sight. David sprawled lifeless on the rug, blood seeping into the fibers. Emma sobbing just a few feet away. Emma! Claire cried, rushing forward. She pulled the little girl into her arms, hugging her tight. Her hands trembled as she stroked Emma's hair, her face twisting between horror and relief. Emma clung to her mother, whispering through tears, "Daddy saved me." Claire glanced at David's body, her expression unreadable. A storm of disbelief, fear, and something that looked like guilt flickered in her eyes. In the sewer, Marcus's team moved again, footsteps splashing as they reformed. The mission wasn't over, but for Marcus, the world outside the sewer walls no longer existed. He pulled the earpiece from his ear, staring into the filthy water, his reflection broken into ripples. He had done what he swore he would, protect his daughter. Yet unease lingered in the pit of his stomach, gnawing at him. The clicks, the strange repetition of Emma's words. What if this wasn't over? Cole studied him carefully. "Captain, you good?" Marcus forced his jaw tight. "She's safe. That's all that matters." But even as he said it, he knew it wasn't the whole truth. The relief felt hollow, incomplete, because something about David's smirk in those final seconds hadn't been fear. It had been satisfaction, and that thought hit Marcus harder than the rifle's echo. The gunshots still echoed in the night when Claire burst into Emma's bedroom. The hinges banged against the wall as the door swung open, rattling a framed picture of Emma on the hallway shelf. Her eyes landed on the scene in an instant. Blood splattered across the window frame, glass scattered like diamonds on the rug. David's body sprawled crooked, his face turned away, crimson soaking into the carpet fibers. But it was Emma's scream that tore at her more than the sight of the corpse. Her little girl sat on her knees, hands clamped to her ears, hair chopped unevenly, tuft scattered across her bedspread. She sobbed, chest heaving, the stuffed bear limp by her side as if it had died too. "Emma!" Claire dropped to her knees, scooping the child into her arms. Emma collapsed against her, clutching at her shirt, crying so hard she shook. Claire's hands trembled as she stroked her daughter's hair, the uneven patches catching between her fingers. Baby, it's okay," she whispered, though her own voice was breaking. Her eyes darted to David's body, wide and disbelieving. What happened?" Emma buried her face in Claire's chest, muffling her sobs. Between gasps, she whispered words that chilled Claire's blood. Daddy saved me." Claire froze, blinking rapidly, her mind spinning. Saved? From David? The man she'd sworn was stable, good, protective? The man she'd chosen, insisting Marcus was paranoid when he raised concerns? Her throat closed. She looked again at David, sprawled in the pool of blood, and something twisted deep inside her. Not grief, not love, but a horrifying uncertainty. The comm in the corner crackled faintly, Marcus's voice cutting through, strained but calm. "Emma? Claire? Can you hear me?" Claire's breath caught. She lifted the phone, staring at it like it was a ghost. Marcus's voice continued, low, deliberate. "She's safe. Keep her with you. Don't let her out of your sight." Claire's eyes darted to Emma, still clinging to her shirt, and then back to the lifeless body across the rug. For the first time, she truly saw the monster her husband had been. Scissors still in his limp hand, hair clinging to his shirt, his smirk frozen into death. And guilt hit her like a tidal wave. She had dismissed Marcus's warnings. She had defended David. She had let her daughter live under his roof, convinced herself she was doing the right thing. Now Emma's hair lay in pieces across the room like evidence of her mistake. Claire pressed Emma tighter to her chest. Tears streaked her cheeks as she whispered, "I'm so sorry, baby. Mommy should have listened." In the sewer below, Marcus leaned against the damp wall, listening to the muffled voices. Relief washed through him at hearing Emma's voice alive, but every word clawed at him. He couldn't shake the image of David's final smirk. Cole glanced at him. "She's okay. You did it." But Marcus's jaw flexed. His instincts were a soldier's compass, honed by years of reading threats, catching tells, sensing traps. And that smirk, it hadn't been the face of a man surprised by death. It had been the face of someone who'd already won. Above, Claire brushed the broken glass from the rug with one shaking hand, trying to clear a space for Emma to sit. Her palm trembled as she picked up the stuffed bear. It seemed stretched wide where Emma had gripped it too tightly. She pressed it back into Emma's arms, whispering, "Hold him tight. Don't let go." Emma sniffled and obeyed, hugging the bear like a lifeline. But her little voice cracked again, repeating words that didn't fit the moment. "Daddy, he's cutting my hair." Claire blinked. The exact phrase, the exact rhythm, as if she were still reciting it. Her heart skipped. She stared down at her daughter, brows knitting, unease rippling through her chest. "Emma, who told you to say that?" Emma only shook her head and buried her face deeper into her mother's chest. Claire's arms tightened protectively around her, but the seed of dread had been planted. Something wasn't right. Down in the sewer, Marcus pressed a hand against his forehead, trying to steady his racing thoughts. He could still hear the faint click in his memory, the way Emma's words had lined up too perfectly. He muttered under his breath, "This doesn't add up." The mission around him no longer mattered. The enemy wasn't in the tunnels. The enemy had been in his daughter's bedroom all along. And Marcus knew, dead or not, David had left something behind. Something far worse than scissors. The bedroom was thick with the stench of blood and the acrid bite of gunpowder drifting in from the shattered window. Claire sat on the rug, her arms around Emma, rocking gently, whispering words that sounded hollow even to her own ears. The scissors lay inches from David's hand, their metallic edge catching the light of the desk lamp. His eyes were half open, frozen in a deathly stare, the faint trace of a smirk still carved into his lips. Marcus listened through the calm, his back pressed to the sewer wall. Water dripped into the murk around his boots. The sounds of his daughter's muffled sobs filtered into his earpiece, every hitching breath cutting deeper than the knife fights and gunfire he'd survived on countless missions. Then came Cole's voice, quiet, almost hesitant. "Captain, I don't think we're done." Marcus snapped his head toward him. "What do you mean?" Cole crouched low, eyes on his tactical feed. He tapped his earpiece, as though confirming something through another channel. "Sniper team confirms. After impact, they spotted something slip from the target's pocket when he fell. Looked like a device." Marcus's stomach tightened. "What kind of device?" "Can't tell from here," Cole admitted, his voice clipped but careful. "But they saw a flash of a red LED. Might have been running." Marcus's pulse hammered in his temples. That faint clicking sound, that glow he thought he saw, his instincts screamed in unison. "Get me eyes on it." Above, Claire's gaze finally shifted from Emma's pale face to David's body. Her hand trembled as she reached out, not to touch him, but to shove his shoulder enough to roll him onto his back. His arm flopped lifelessly, and from his jacket pocket slid a small black recorder, no bigger than a deck of cards. A red light blinked faintly before going dark. Claire's breath caught in her throat. She reached for it with shaking fingers, hesitant as if it might burn her. She held it up, staring, confusion rippling across her features. "What is this?" she whispered to no one. Emma stirred, her face buried in her mother's chest. She peeked through tear-streaked eyes, saw the object, and whimpered. "He made me say it." Claire froze. She looked down at her daughter. "What do you mean, baby?" Emma's voice came small, almost inaudible. "He told me what to say. He said, if I don't, he'll hurt Teddy." She clutched the stuffed bear tighter until it seemed strained. Claire's heart lurched. The guilt pressed harder, suffocating her. Her hands trembled so violently she almost dropped the recorder. In the sewer, Cole's voice tightened. "Captain, the device is confirmed. Looks like an audio recorder." Marcus shut his eyes, his fist pressing against the damp wall. A wave of dread surged through him. He didn't need to hear it. He already knew what it contained. Emma's repeated cries. The exact words. The clicks. All orchestrated. Claire fumbled with the recorder. Her thumb brushed the play button, and the room filled with static before a voice broke through David's. Say it again, Emma. Louder this time. Daddy, he's cutting my hair. Cry harder. If you don't, Teddy loses his head. Emma whimpered in her mother's arms, covering her ears. Claire's eyes widened, her face drained of color. The room spun around her as David's sick game unfolded through the device. The proof was undeniable. Marcus's knees nearly buckled in the sewer. His daughter's sobs on the recording weren't cries for help. They were lines delivered under duress. He had been manipulated, baited into pulling the trigger. The monster hadn't just abused his daughter. He had used her innocence like a weapon. Cole muttered, low and heavy, Jesus Christ. Claire dropped the recorder to the floor. It clattered against the wood and skidded to a stop near David's limp hand, almost as if returning to its master. She pulled Emma closer, whispering, I'm so sorry. I didn't know. Emma's small voice broke through, trembling. Daddy, I didn't want to say it. He made me. Marcus swallowed hard. His chest heaved, but no words came out. His soldiers stood around him in the sewer, eyes lowered, the truth sinking in like poison. The shot he thought had saved his daughter was exactly what David had wanted all along. And that smirk, frozen on David's dead face, Marcus finally understood it. It wasn't defiance. It was victory. The recorder lay on the floor, its tiny red light pulsing once before going still. Claire's hand trembled as if the plastic box carried the weight of a bomb. The sound of David's voice, smooth and commanding, still echoed in the air from the last playback. Say it again, Emma. Louder this time. Daddy, he's cutting my hair. Cry harder. If you don't, Teddy loses his head. Emma had buried her face in her mother's chest, her small hands clamped over her ears. The stuffed bear was crushed so tightly between them that the seams stretched, ready to tear. Claire's tears wet her daughter's hair as guilt swelled inside her like a rising tide. In the sewer, Marcus staggered a step back and pressed a gloved hand against the wet wall. The rough concrete scraped his knuckles, but he didn't feel it. His daughter's voice replayed in his mind. Not the real one, but the forced one, the trembling rehearsals David had twisted into a performance. Every daddy, he's cutting my hair, hadn't been Emma's cry for help. It had been David's script. Cole's voice crackled through the calm, low and shaken. Captain, we have confirmation. It was staged. Every word. Marcus closed his eyes, but behind his lids he saw it again. Emma's tiny frame in the moonlight, her hands clutching the bear, her voice repeating the same phrase like a broken doll. His lungs tightened. He wanted to tear through the earth, claw up into that bedroom, and rip the recorder apart with his bare hands. Instead, his voice came out hoarse, raw. Play the rest. Claire froze. Her thumb hovered over the recorder's button. Her body shook, torn between wanting the truth and fearing what else it might hold. Finally, with a trembling breath, she pressed it again. Static fizzed. Then David's voice filled the room once more. That's it, good girl. Don't forget to cry louder. He has to believe you. Again. Daddy, he's cutting my hair. Perfect. You're breaking him, Emma. You're breaking your hero. Claire's hand shot to her mouth, stifling a sob. Emma whimpered and shook her head against her mother's chest. Marcus's fists clenched until his knuckles went white. His voice was almost a growl in the calm he used her. He made her his weapon. Cole, usually unshakable, sounded hollow. Captain, you couldn't have known. But Marcus did know. Deep inside, he had felt something was wrong. The clicks, the repeated cadence. He had sensed it, and yet he had given the order. He had pulled the trigger. He had delivered exactly what David wanted. Proof that Marcus Kane, the soldier, could be manipulated through his daughter's voice. The recording continued, David's tone crueler now. Smile, Emma. Don't let him hear your face. If you mess up, I'll cut your bear's head right off. And maybe more than that. Claire pressed her daughter tighter, tears dripping freely now. Oh God, I let this man into our home. Emma shook violently in her arms, sobbing. I didn't want to, Mommy. I didn't want to. Marcus's eyes stung, but no tears fell. Soldiers didn't cry, not in front of their men. But inside he was bleeding. Every mission he had ever survived, every enemy he had ever faced, none had hit him like this. His daughter had been turned against him, her innocence poisoned, her love twisted into a weapon aimed straight at his heart. The playback ended with David's laugh. Hollow, smug, triumphant. It cut off abruptly, leaving a silence heavier than any explosion. Claire dropped the recorder, her shoulders shaking. It landed inches from David's outstretched hand, as if mocking them even in death. Emma whimpered one last time. Daddy, I didn't mean to break you. Marcus's chest heaved. He pressed his fist against the sewer wall, the rough concrete cutting into his skin. His men kept their eyes low, unwilling to meet his gaze. Cole finally spoke, his tone careful, almost pleading. She's alive. That's what matters, Captain. He can't hurt her anymore. Marcus didn't answer. His voice had been stripped raw. The sewer around him seemed to close in, dripping like a countdown, pressing on his chest. Because Cole was wrong. David could still hurt her. Through the memory, through the guilt, through the broken trust that would haunt Emma's childhood. And Marcus knew it wasn't over. David had died with a smirk for a reason. The man had wanted this ending, which meant somewhere, somehow, his game wasn't finished. The room smelled of blood and betrayal. Claire rocked Emma on the rug, whispering nothing words. Sure, it's okay. Mommy's here, while the recorder sat between them like a dead insect. David's body had gone slack, but the crooked smile he died with kept the room tilted off its axis. In the sewer, Marcus didn't move. Water lapped his knees. The men were statues, waiting on the space between his breaths. It isn't over, he said at last. Not to Cole. Not to anyone. To the feeling. To the smirk. Cole glanced sideways. Captain. Marcus's mind replayed the clicks, the perfect repetitions, the way David kept leaning into the window, as if he were placing himself on a mark. He spoke into the open line. Claire, listen to me very carefully. Her voice came back thin, shaking. I'm listening. Don't move, Emma. Keep her where she is. Has she been holding that bear the whole time? Claire looked down. Emma clutched the bear, so hard the paw seam was stretched white, threads about to give. Yes. She won't let go. Good. Marcus said automatically, then froze on the word. His pupils tightened. Actually, don't change anything yet. Cole caught the warning in his tone. What are you thinking? The clicks, Marcus murmured. They weren't scissors. They were prompts. And he threatened the bear every time she hesitated. He made the bear the center of the room. He swallowed. Claire, does the bear feel hard anywhere? Heavier than it should? Claire blinked. With shaky fingers, she touched the belly, the seams, the head. Beneath the stuffing, something unforgiving pressed back. A narrow bar of plastic along the spine, a coin-sized hardness stitched into the paw. There's something inside, she whispered. It's not just stuffing. Marcus's mouth went dry. Don't squeeze differently, he said, voice suddenly very calm. Keep the pressure exactly the same. Exactly. Emma's breath hitched. Mommy, it's okay, baby, Claire soothed, arms tightening, trying to make her own trembling invisible. Don't let go of Teddy, all right? In the sewer, Cole's expression sharpened. You think he wired a switch? I think he turned my kid into a trigger, Marcus said, almost to himself. He forced his voice through the calm. Steady, father slow. Claire, I need you to look for a small zipper or a hidden stitch. The seam on the paw. Can you see thread that's different from the others? Claire shifted as little as she could, eyes scanning the bear's paw. There, 3 stitches tighter than the rest, darker thread. Her stomach twisted. I see it. Okay, Marcus said. Do you have little scissors? He winced the instant he said it, then pushed through. Knife? Nail clippers. Claire's gaze flickered to the scissors on the floor beside David's hand. The metal was tacky with blood. She swallowed hard and reached. The handles were slick. She wiped them on the rug and brought them up, hands shaking so badly the blades clicked. Slow, Marcus breathed. You're going to slip the tip under just one of those darker stitches. Keep Emily's grip the same. Don't pull. Don't change pressure. Okay, Claire whispered. Okay. The first snip was a whisper. A sliver of thread popped. The seam eased a fraction, but didn't open. Emma whimpered, face still pressed to Claire's collarbone. On the radio, the second team chimed in, flat professional. Lima, 2 copies your traffic. We've alerted local EOD. 5 to 7 minutes out if you want them, but we don't have 7, Marcus said. His jaw ground. Claire, slide your finger alongside the seam. Feel for something that's pressing outward. Claire did, breath shallow. Her fingertip found plastic, thin, flexing, then the cold bump of a micro switch, the kind that clicked when relieved. Her throat closed. Marcus, she whispered, I think, if she lets go. I know, he said. He didn't let his voice break. You're doing perfect. Cole had already pulled a tablet, sketched a quick layout with a gloved knuckle, a bare silhouette and a tiny square marked switch. If it's a dead man, he said, it arms when pressure changes. Could be relayed to what? A younger operator whispered before he could stop himself. To something stupid and cruel, Cole said, eyes on Marcus. Claire, Marcus said into the comm. We need to know if you wired this to anything in the house. Look carefully under the dresser, along the baseboards, near the stairwell. Wires, new tape, anything that doesn't belong. But don't move, Emma. Keep her grip. Claire's vision doubled for a second. She blinked it clear and forced herself to look. Baseboards, outlet plates, the tiny gap under the door. Nothing. Then, there along the skirting by the hallway, fresh tape, the cheap kind, gray and shiny. A wire tucked neatly beneath it, leading toward the stairs. Her mouth went dry. There's a wire. Marcus's men did not breathe. Where does it go? Marcus asked. Claire craned her neck. The wire disappeared down the stairs, a thin umbilical into the dark. Every instinct screamed not to follow, not to leave her daughter's arms. She didn't. I can't see further. It goes down. Cole was already nodding at nothing. Stairwell void. Cheap to hide pack in there. Piezo in the bear closes the circuit. Classic dead man. Marcus shut his eyes for a single beat. He opened them into steel. Okay, we're going to make this simple. Claire, I need you to keep Emma's hands exactly where they are. We're going to transfer pressure from her grip to yours, then to something that won't move. Emma shook her head without looking up. I don't want to let go. You won't, Claire whispered, kissing her hair. We'll do it together. Find a heavy book, Marcus said. A dictionary, a box, anything with weight that can sit on the bear's paw. But listen, you must match the pressure. Not more, not less. Slide it in while both of you are still pressing. Claire looked wildly around the room. Emma's school bag lay by the desk, stuffed with textbooks. Claire stretched, snagged it, dumped a math book onto the rug. Her hands were shaking so hard the corners thumped. On my count, Marcus said, voice so soft it ran like water. Claire, your right hand under Emma's, same spot. Feel the switch. Match her. Emma, sweetheart, mommy's helping. Don't change how hard you're hugging. Ready? 3, 2, 1. Claire slid her hand under Emma's, palm molding to the bear's paw until she felt the micro switch through the fabric. The pressure matched like a second heartbeat. Emma kept breathing in tiny sips. Good, Marcus said. Now lower the corner of the book onto your hand, millimeter by millimeter, until it's sharing the weight. If you feel the switch shift, stop. Claire lowered. The book touched her knuckles. The switch did not click. Sweat slid into her eyes. She blinked it away. Lower. The corner settled, taking a sliver of the load. Again, Marcus murmured. Small. They inched the weight over in breaths and heartbeats, until the book owned the pressure and Claire's hand was only a ghost. She swallowed. I think it's holding. Don't think, Marcus said. Feel. Is the switch the same? She felt it. Unchanged. Yes. Now, Emma, Marcus said, barely a whisper. On 3, Mommy will slide her hand out. You keep your hands where they are, but you can loosen just a little. The book's helping. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Claire slid free. Emma's fingers loosened by a hair. The switch held. No click. The wire by the baseboard lay still as a dead snake. Claire exhaled for the first time in a minute. She didn't let herself cry. Not yet. It's holding. In the sewer, a sound escaped Marcus's chest that might have been a prayer cut in half. Cole tapped his comm. EOD is 2 minutes. We can guide them to the stair void. Do it, Marcus said. Then, softer, Claire, you did everything right. Her eyes moved to David's body. The smirk had not changed, but its power had. It looked small now. Petty. A last bad joke that didn't land. Emma lifted her face, blotched and wet. Daddy, I'm here, Marcus said, the words steady, the man inside them shaking. I won't let anything else hurt you. Claire reached for the recorder without turning it on. She tucked it face down under a stack of papers as if that could muffle ghosts. Her eyes traveled to the wire again, then back to the bear, then to the window. She saw the shape of what David had built. Not just a script, not just a death. A trap meant to keep pulling at them long after he was gone. Marcus saw it too, and for the first time since the shot, he felt something like agency return his hands. Cole, he said, we end his game tonight. The bedroom looked less like a child's sanctuary and more like a battlefield. The walls, once painted in soft lavender, now reflected the broken glass glittering on the floor. Emma's toys were scattered in corners, forgotten, while strands of her hair clung to the blood-soaked rug. David's body had been taken away, but the mark he left behind filled every shadow. Claire sat on the edge of the bed, arms wrapped tightly around Emma. The little girl clung to her mother's shirt, as if letting go would send her tumbling into darkness. Her sobs had softened into hiccuped gasps, but her eyes remained wide, restless. Claire whispered over and over, "It's okay, baby. It's over. He can't hurt you anymore." But even as she said it, she knew it wasn't true. Emma would carry this night with her forever, and so would she. On the floor, the recorder still sat, mute, a black scar on the room. Claire's eyes kept flicking toward it, as if afraid it might wake and start playing again. The memory of David's voice barking orders to Emma was too fresh, too real. Marcus heard everything through the open line. Down in the sewer, he stood perfectly still, water dripping from his gear, his hand pressed to his earpiece. His men moved cautiously ahead, clearing the tunnels, but Marcus hadn't shifted an inch. His war wasn't in these tunnels anymore. It was upstairs, in that lavender room, in his daughter's broken voice. Cole stood nearby, his expression taut, respectful. He finally spoke, low and steady. "Captain, we neutralized the device. Your girl's safe. You did what you had to do." Marcus didn't look at him. His jaw flexed, his eyes narrowed on nothing. "Safe," he repeated, his voice flat. "You think she feels safe?" Cole hesitated. He had seen Marcus calm men in firefights, make impossible calls under fire, but he had never heard this tone, bitter, raw, stripped down. "She'll heal," Cole said at last. "Kids are resilient." Marcus turned, his eyes dark. She wasn't supposed to be resilient. She was supposed to be happy, innocent. His breath shook once before he forced control back into it. David didn't just hurt her. He turned her into a weapon. Against me. Above, Claire finally released Emma, just enough to look into her daughter's eyes. "Sweetheart," she whispered, brushing hair from her damp cheeks. "You don't have to say anything he made you say ever again. Do you understand? No one can make you do that anymore." Emma sniffled, her little voice barely audible. "But I broke Daddy." Claire's chest cracked. She hugged her tighter. "No, baby. You didn't break him. He loves you more than anything. You didn't do anything wrong." Emma didn't answer. Her gaze stayed distant, fixed on a broken window. Claire pressed her lips to her daughter's hair, whispering an apology into it. She remembered every time Marcus had tried to warn her. Every time she dismissed his instincts. "You're paranoid. David's good to us. You're just jealous." And now, in the worst way possible, Marcus had been right all along. She looked at the phone on the dresser, Marcus's voice still faintly audible through the open line. Her throat tightened. "Marcus," she said, barely above a whisper. "I should have listened." In the sewer, Marcus's eyes closed. His shoulders sagged under the weight of it. "It doesn't matter anymore," he said, though his tone betrayed him. "What matters is Emma." Cole shifted, uneasy. The men were waiting for orders, but none came. This wasn't something an operation manual could solve. Claire rocked Emma gently, her own tears soaking into the child's shirt. The house felt different now. Every corner, every shadow, tainted by David's cruelty. Even gone, he was still here. And Marcus knew it too. The smirk David wore when he died wasn't just arrogance. It had been deliberate. A final move in a game that didn't end with his death. For the first time in his career, Marcus didn't feel like he had won. He felt like he had been played. Cole finally broke the silence. "Captain, what do we tell command? What's the report?" Marcus's gaze stayed locked on the sewer's dripping walls. His voice came out low, certain. "We don't report this. Not yet. They wouldn't understand." He turned his head just enough to meet Cole's eyes. "This isn't about the mission anymore. This is about my family. And I'm the only one who can end it." Above, Emma's small hand tightened in her mother's shirt, her voice a whisper drowned by guilt. "Daddy saved me, but he's still not safe." Claire kissed her temple, eyes closing. And in the shadows below, Marcus clenched his fists, the truth solidifying inside him. David's cruelty hadn't died with him. It was alive in the cracks he'd carved into their lives. And unless Marcus faced it, that smirk would haunt them forever. The house was quiet again, but not in the way that meant peace. It was the kind of quiet that follows a storm, where everything broken still lies scattered, waiting to be counted. The bomb squad had come and gone. The wire under the stairs was cut, the pack neutralized and hauled off in a black case. The bear was gone too, dismantled carefully, its stuffing spilled out across a sterile plastic tray, revealing the switch David had hidden inside. Emma had cried when they took it from her arms, but Marcus had whispered through the comm, "It's not safe, sweetheart. I'll get you a new one." She hadn't answered. She had just stared at the seams in her hands where the bear had once been. Claire sat with her on the bed now, rocking gently, brushing fingers through Emma's jagged hair. The strands were uneven, chopped short on one side, long on the other. A cruel half-job left unfinished. Emma's eyes were swollen from crying, but she had gone quiet, too quiet. Her thumb rubbed endlessly against the seam of her sleeve, searching for comfort that wasn't there. Claire's guilt was written across every line of her face. She had chosen David. She had invited him in. She had dismissed Marcus's warnings as paranoia. And tonight, that blindness had almost cost Emma her life. She kissed the top of her daughter's head, whispering, "I'm so sorry, baby. I swear I'll never let anyone hurt you again." Emma didn't look up. Her voice was a fragile thread. "You made me say it, Mommy." Over and over. Claire's chest cracked to the words. She pulled Emma closer, fighting tears. Down in the sewer, Marcus had stayed in place long after the EOD team confirmed the threat was gone. His men had moved ahead to clear the rest of the tunnels, but he hadn't followed. His boots were still sunk in the muck, his eyes fixed on nothing. The relief of survival didn't reach him. The victory felt poisoned. Cole stood beside him, quiet, patient. "She's safe. That's the win, Captain. Nothing else matters." Marcus's voice came hoarse. "Everything else matters. She'll remember this. Every time she hears her own voice cry those words, she'll remember he made her say them." His hands curled into fists. "That doesn't go away, Cole." Cole didn't argue. He knew Marcus wasn't looking for comfort. He was speaking truths out loud because silence would make them worse. Above, Claire finally pulled the covers over Emma. The child curled into a small ball, eyes open, staring at the wall. Claire brushed her cheek and whispered, "Sleep, sweetheart." But she knew Emma wouldn't. Not tonight. Maybe not for many nights. She stepped into the hallway, closing the door softly. Her eyes drifted back to David's body, zipped into a black bag and already wheeled out by medics. For a moment, she remembered his charming smile at the start, the way he had convinced her she was safe with him. She wanted to scream at herself for ever believing it. The recorder still sat on the dresser, muted under a pile of papers, but its presence was a weight she couldn't ignore. The thought of it existing, David's voice forcing Emma, her cries preserved, was unbearable. She reached for it, fingers trembling. Marcus's voice came through the comm. "Claire, leave it." She froze. "Why? It's poison. I don't want it in this house." "We need to understand what he built," Marcus said, steady now. That smirk, he wanted us to hear it, to carry it. If he left one device, he may have left more. That recorder isn't just evidence of his cruelty. It's a map of his mind. Claire's hand shook. She wanted to hurl it out, the broken window. But deep down, she knew Marcus was right. David's game wasn't just about tonight. It was about leaving scars that would last. Destroying the recorder wouldn't erase what Emma had endured. She placed it back down and whispered, "Then you carry it." "Because I can't." Silence stretched on a line. Then Marcus said softly, "I will." He straightened in the sewer, rolling his shoulders as if a burden had settled there. He had made the call that killed David. He had ordered the shot, and now he would carry the aftermath, the guilt, the knowledge that his daughter had been forced into betrayal. Better him than her. Above, Claire stood by Emma's door, listening to the faint sound of her daughter's restless breathing. Down below, Marcus finally moved, signaling Cole to follow the others. The mission was technically complete, but the war David had started, in their family, in Emma's memory, in Marcus's heart, was only beginning. And in the silence of that night, both Marcus and Claire realized the same truth. David's smirk hadn't been about surviving death. It had been about surviving in them. Forever.